Hi, good afternoon. My name is Andy. Our team, Jiraantech, we are working on a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that features on more on KYC and using alternative data to do credit score. So the target segment that we are looking at today is more on SME. Why do we do so is that in emerging countries, we see 90% of all the companies, or rather SME make up of 90% of all the total companies in emerging countries. And with that, they contribute more than 50% of the GDP growth in the countries itself. But then, having said that, they are not getting enough support from the formal financial providers today. In the MENA region, we are talking about 8% of the banking credit getting access to SME. And in UAE alone, we are talking about 4%. And to help the companies, SMEs to get credit. So how do we fill in the gap? So over here, we have John, who is a small business owner. And these are real-life feedback that we have got from our market research. These are the top concerns that they have got from the feedbacks. We are talking about access to funds. Typically, companies get around averagely 2 to 3 weeks to get a response from banks. And that doesn't include talking about approval. And along with that, they are often required to provide collaterals. And we are talking about, for small business owners, this is going to be very taxing for them because of the cash flow. And there I am, coming from a low-income, middle-income guys. I'm waiting to actually try to make my money work harder. How do I do that? My money is in the bank. I have no idea how the money is moving inside the bank. Asymmetrical information. They probably take my money and lend out at a good rate, but I'm only getting less than 1%. So we are also trying to see how investors are able to make a more meaningful contribution from their standpoint of view. And there we are trying to build a marketplace that focuses on a superior KYC process so that we can shorten the overall identification of customers, and as well as we want to actually lead them to give a better credit score from other ways, because the current traditional way of doing things, I don't think is still relevant today in today's context. That has to be relooked into. So here is a typical user journey that we see with KYC being done for the borrowers. So using a combination of traditional data where you get your credit score from probably the banks or from the central bureau that recently is launched in Abu Dhabi. Along with that, we want to complement the data with alternative data that provides other forms of information about the companies. This will go into giving them a credit score that gets into an auction base where both the lenders and borrowers are able to come and get the most reasonable interest rate between them. That would translate to the actual transaction taking place. And last but not least, all this information that is being gathered will be captured in a permissible blockchain infrastructure with the aim to help the companies to gain better credit with the providers in the later stage. So when we talk about the market size in the world, we are talking about $150 billion. This is estimated to grow up to $800 billion by 2024. And these are figures given by various entities. And when we are talking about the local context, figures coming from the central bank, we get the figure from the business loan is about $77 billion. With this, we are targeting to look at about $15 million, and this is based on the projections that we are working with our partners, where we will be tapping on their database and reaching out to the users. So how do we actually place ourselves is that we position ourselves to be fast processing, We want to be online, and we want to keep everything simple, pretty simple. These are the founders that we have. We have an average of 20 years around us. And these are the milestones that we have. We are trying to build the product in 6 months' time. And I think I'm run out of time. I'll be happy to take your questions after this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. How do you create the marketplace? So where do you find the borrowers and lenders?
So we are working with business associations and various entities in Dubai to get the database from them. So in terms of database, we are looking at about 300,000 to 350,000 SMEs. So that will be on the SME company side. On the lender side, we are reaching out to retail investors. It could be individuals. We are also talking to banks where they have expressed interest to work with us. And those are still infancy, I would say. So part of the entity that we are talking to is that they are interested to use some of the funds to cover as investors.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Being a Beehive user, I can recognize a lot of the concepts. So I was wondering how you guys differentiate with the current actors in the marketplace.
So I guess the average KYC that's taken place by some of the players here, they are taking about minimum 2 days to 1 week, if I'm not wrong. And a lot of times the target segment, they are still looking at companies which are at least 3 years old. But what my target segment is, we are looking at very young companies, at least 1 to 3 years old. So there's a difference in the target segment as well.
Are there any assurances you give to the investors as to like a credit rating or similar to the amount of risk that they will be taking when investing in this?
So apart from the traditional data that's being used to access the credit score, we will be using other forms of methods of trying to validate their credentials. That will be in the form of a digital footprint as well as an on-site KYC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Big hand for Andy.
Thank you.